Hello, friends. How are you today? Well, I would love to talk with you about the energies. In the astrology for the full moon for October 17, there was a major square, and it involved the big players, Pluto especially. And today, the day after the full moon peak, we have a yod with Lilith, with the moon and Saturn retrograde, which is really interesting. This yod doesn't last for a long time because the moon moves fairly quickly, but it nails energy right as the full moon is starting to go into its 2-week period. Because Lilith was at both the sun and the moon exact for the entire lunar month, I feel that this yod is very potent. And it's so interesting. You might be able to hear sort of construction type noise in the background. I tried to record at the salt marsh today. And when I'm at the salt marsh, I'm at the meeting point of where the water from the mountain meets the water from the ocean inland, and where it potentially drains. I can't think of a better description of Saturn and Pisces, because there are a ton of people right now working on the drainage system. They're checking it, they're clearing it, they're seeing if the water flows. I mean, it's just a whole production. There's tons of trucks and all sorts of things going on. So this is what I want to talk about. Saturn in Pisces can be a disassembling of structure, yet it can also be us finding the structure that works for us in a spirit, from the level of the spiritual built up. And that's what makes the structure work in these times. The attending to details from the level of the soul, from the level of love, right? That's what a spiritual nature is about, unconditional love at the heart of it. So these men working are taking care of the water. They're taking care of the land. These men are checking the structure, and they're going to rebuild the structure, it looks like, if that's necessary. So, at the same time, we've got this yod. It points to Lilith from the moon, so it's very emotional, very embodied. And so the moon and Saturn in Pisces point to Lilith. Saturn is retrograde, so there's a ton of work to do to rectify what Lilith represents. I'm putting out a whole video, a 15-minute video explaining Lilith energy and how she transforms, right? Back potentially to recovering her soul. So Saturn quincunx, right? That's part of Yod. Quincunx Lilith retrograde implies a lot of very difficult work. Why is it so difficult? Well, you've got a grand square with Pluto, and Pluto just moved forward during the new moon phase direct towards Aquarius. A lot is shifting, and people are being activated by this direct move. You can check out my live stream for more on that. Generation X in particular is being activated, but if you have major bodies in Aquarius, Aries or Libra, you're going to be majorly activated if they're, anywhere in the early degrees of the sign, or 0 or 29 of the previous sign. But anyway, so while this Saturn effect is going on generally, right? Saturn quincunx Lilith encourages us, and Pluto activates us in a square, which is a lot of energy and a lot of challenge, activates us to shift and change based on concepts that are divinely connected to the truth of who we are. And anything not in alignment with those concepts is going to turn to dust. It will be difficultly destroyed if you try to hold on to those things. If you come at it with the attitude of elevation, where will the divine take me in this? What could be next? How will, this be turned to my highest good? That's the best way, in my view, to get through this. And I'm speaking from experience. Pluto squared my ascendant some years ago, went over my midheaven. I was just talking with a friend about this last night. It resulted in some of the most challenging years of my life. Everything that was not aligned with my soul purpose, that's the midheaven, was destroyed and turned to dust. And it was in that moment, my soul purpose, that motivated me, that helped me get through it, that gave me the hope. In this environment, there's a lot of interpretation and conjecture, and a lot of that is fear-based. I'm not saying that there's not challenging aspects and energies. Of course there are. We're shifting into a new orientation and way of looking at how we live and what our health and how we work and how these things affect the individual. Aquarius, which opposes Leo, the individual. Aquarius, the big concepts, the group, and ruled by Saturn traditionally, right? So Pluto is going to be coming in and saying, okay, now we're going to take apart these structures. Well, the Yod to Lilith points, God's finger, right? The Yod points to what have you abandoned? And an indicator of that would be the moon that you're really emotional about. What is it that you're really emotional about? Because that's going to be a pointer for you of what you may have abandoned that was truly yours. That's what Lilith represents, right? The reason she's rageful is she abandons key aspects of herself and isn't who she really is, right? Like, I don't feel like myself. That's a Lilith energy. So with all of these very intense aspects, there's a potential for very negative interpretations. And yet, in my view, all of this turns our environment, our ideals of Aquarius towards our highest good. Saturn and Pisces, this is all spiritually based. Right? The new structures must be spiritually based, or they will be disassembled in the great ocean of Neptune, which rules Pisces. So, Pisces traditionally was ruled by Jupiter, the beneficent god, and sometimes the overflowing God, right? We've seen a lot of floods in these things. But as we look at potentials, when we focus on, oh wow, I wonder how the highest good could unfold for me personally in what's going on. How can I live that in my life? These are the things that put the strong structures in place. Because when we have that orientation, we're able to connect with divine guidance, our spiritual guidance. And that's what protects us in these times. That's where the inspiration is. That's where the motivation is. So lift yourself up, allow yourself in your darkest moments or in challenging moments to consider the possibility that there could be an angel right by your side, rooting you on, if you might only look up or look to your heart and acknowledge this possibility. Because the Creator gave us free will. Thus, if we choose not to consider the possibility, that is honored. So, be well, friends. Be well in these energies.